in this video, I'm going to be telling you my best tips and advice for the NSLI applications essays. If you don't know me, my name is Jasuna and I participated in the NSLI academic year program for Mandarin in Taiwan last year. The NSLI application has 3 essays and 1 letter for your host family and instructors. The host family letter and essay number 3 usually don't change, but essay 1 and essay 2, their prompts change every year. So in this video, I'm going to be covering the ones that don't change, and I'm going to make separate videos specific to the application that year. So make sure to check that video out. If you're watching this video, you're probably planning on applying for NSLI, so I just want to let you know that I have a lot of really great resources. I already have a lot of videos and information about my application. I am planning on making more videos and other resources that are going to be really helpful for you during the NSLI application process. I will talk about my tips for choosing and writing your extracurricular activities. I talk about my own experience with NSLI and my experience with the interviews. I give a walkthrough of the application. I even give my own statistics and essays for examples. I have templates for you to plan your extracurricular activities and plan and write your essays. And I will even look at some of your essays and help you revise them. Anyways, I have all of that linked in the description below. Some of it might not be out yet, but hopefully by the time you're watching this video, it will be. In this video, I'm going to start off by giving you some general tips for the NSLI essays, and then I'll go into depth for each essay. My first tip is to start your application early. Trust me, the application is due on November 2nd, but you definitely should be starting it in October or even September. You're also going to want to showcase your passion through your essays. Specifically, showcase your passion for learning about different cultures and languages, or maybe international relations, and explain how NSLI aligns with your passions and interests. Another tip is that you're going to want to emphasize some themes throughout your NSLI essays, one of which is adaptability. If you're going to be going to a foreign country with strangers, they need to know that you're going to be able to adjust. You should also try to show your open-mindedness and your cultural awareness. They want to know that you're willing to look at this new country from an open-minded point of view, and that you would be willing to accept and understand different cultures. You're also going to want to be very specific and unique to yourself. You're going to want to tell specific stories of your own personal experiences, and you want to try to avoid writing vague and ambiguous sentences that anyone could write. Then you're also going to want to relate these stories to the topic of the essay. So you want to make concrete examples that showcase what you're trying to convey in the essay. You're also going to want to highlight your goals, whether that be educational or career-oriented. The best place to do that is in the host family letter and essay number 3, where you talk about the reasons that you want to participate in NSLI. And more specifically, you want to convey how NSLI will contribute to that and help you achieve your goals. Now, NSLI is run by the U.S. Department of State, so if you have any interest in becoming a global ambassador, foreign officer, or just working for the U.S. Department of State, make sure to emphasize that. And then talk about how NSLI is the perfect first step towards that career. I remember when I was in Taiwan, they had us meet a bunch of ambassadors and foreign officers, and we got to learn all about what it would be like working for something like the U.S. Department of State. So you're definitely going to want to emphasize that. Alright, my other tip is that you want to show self-awareness. Don't only talk about your strengths, you're also going to want to mention your weaknesses and what you're doing to work on that or how you've grown. Don't get me wrong, you do want to highlight your own personal strengths. They just want to see that you understand yourself as a whole. Because they can't expect you to understand an entire new country, language, and culture when you don't even understand yourself. You also want to mention how NSLI can help you learn and grow and become a better person. Alright, now these next tips are pretty obvious. Just make sure you edit and proofread your essays. Don't just write it once and then be done with it. It's important to make sure you got all the grammar right and the essay flows. You also want to try to look at it from a new lens and think about if I was an admissions officer looking at if you were looking at all of your essays, would you think that this person deserves a spot in the NSLI scholarship? And will they be able to handle themselves in a completely different country? You can also ask other people to do this as well. Definitely try to ask feedback from your parents, from teachers, counselors. I'm even a great resource for this too. check out the link in my description. Also, please stay within the word limit. If you try to draft your essays without thinking about the word limit at all, you're either gonna end up way over or way under, and then you're gonna have to make massive edits to try to fix that. Why don't you just try to keep it in mind as you're writing it in the first place? My last journal tip is just make sure that you are addressing the prompt and make sure that it answers the question. The NSLI prompts are very specific. In fact, the host family letter has a whole list of questions that you have to answer, so make sure it answers those questions and it follows the prompt and it's not going off topic. Alright, so the first and longest essay is the letter to your host family and instructors. Alright, now I'm going to read exactly what NSLI says about this essay in the actual application. You may be hosted by a family, and just as you are curious about your host family, school, and instructors, they will be curious about you. Here is a chance to tell them about yourself in the letter. Below are questions you should address in your letter to communicate who you are and your motivation to applying to the program. Your letter must be written in English and not exceed 500 words. Alright, the questions. How would your friends and family describe your personality? How would you describe your relationship with your family and friends? What are your different roles in the community? What would make you a unique addition to a family and a community that will likely be different from your own? In what ways have you prepared for the challenges of the program experience? And what is important to you? What motivates you? And what are your education and career goals? Alright, in this essay, they tell you to format it as an actual letter. The first tip would be to start it as like a greeting, dear future host family, or something like that. My second tip is to make sure you address every question. If there's something lacking from the essay, they'll probably notice. You're also going to want to showcase your personality. Be funny, be lighthearted, act like you're actually talking to your future host family. You can also just straight up describe yourself. Alright, I said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Talk about adaptability. Your host family is going to want to know that you can adapt to their home in a different country and a culture that you're not that familiar with. Alright, this is literally one of the questions, but address how you are prepared for challenges. Talk about how you take on challenges, how you solve challenges that you might run into, and maybe talk about past experiences of resolving possibly related challenges, like when you might have struggled with learning languages. You're going to want to end it with a conclusion that's talking a lot about the future. I'm really excited to have this experience with you. I'm super excited to get to know you, stuff like that. You're also going to want to be very respectful throughout the entire thing. You want to show your appreciation for the possible opportunity of you staying with your host family or the appreciation you might show for your instructors. And you want to be super respectful throughout the whole entire thing, because host families and parents in other countries can be really traditional and strict. You want to make sure that you are showing yourself as a really nice person. Alright, so that's it for the host family letter. Alright, now moving on to essay number 3. And again, if you want to see essay number 1 and number 2, that's a separate video, go check that out. Essay number 3 is where you basically explain why you want to do NSLI. The exact prompt is, explain your choice of languages, list and explain 3 reasons why you want to participate in NSLI. This one is arguably the most important essay. They're going to want to gain insights on why you are the perfect candidate for NSLI and how you're going to take this experience with NSLI and use it in your future. I'm going to give you some ideas on reasons of why you could possibly want to study abroad with NSLI. There's a lot. So you're going to want to choose the ones that resonate with you the most. Alright, let's get started. Alright, one reason is just you're enthusiastic about language and culture. It's been a passion of yours all your life and how you want to do that in your future. And you're crazy about language and culture, and this is perfect for that. And just overall talk about how you love it, how you love learning about different languages and cultures. You can either be general and say that you love cultures and languages as a whole, or you could be very specific. I love the Korean culture and the language, and it's why I want to study abroad in Korea for a year, like that. Alright, number 2. This is one that I used personally, is that you can use the cultural immersion for your benefit. To learn the language, I mean, I personally don't think that any student can just sit in a classroom all day and actually learn the language. You have to be in that place and speak the actual language and be immersed in order to learn it. And it's not only the language, you can also learn about the culture this way too. I mentioned this before, but talk about your education and career goals. Now, if you're using this as a reason for NSLI, you're probably only going to be specifically talking about culture or language or global affairs related careers. If you're trying to study international relations or international business in college, or if you're trying to become a language teacher or a global ambassador or foreign officer, this is the perfect time to talk all about it and how NSLI is perfect about that. And if you're trying to do something like work for the US Department of State, it's basically helping you set up a career for that perfectly. So you can talk about that a lot. Then also you can connect how learning the language will basically set you up for life for any jobs that is in translation or teaching that language. But yeah, let me move on to my next tip, which is just basically personal growth and independence. You as a person are going to become so much more mature and understand the world in a completely different perspective. That definitely happened for me. I felt like when I came to Taiwan, I knew nothing about myself, about that culture, about how to handle crazy situations like getting lost in a foreign country. You're going to want to emphasize that you want to grow as a person. And that's really going to show maturity right now, that you see places for you to grow in yourself and how you can use NSLI to fill in those gaps and become a better, more mature person. You can also connect it to your own family heritage. I did that, I'm pretty sure. I said, my grandparents they're from Hong Kong and they speak Mandarin and there's a language barrier there and they've always wanted me to learn Mandarin and I feel like this will be the push to like learn it and so I can communicate with them. Something along the lines of that. You can just connect it to your own family and, talk about how you might have gone to traditional family gatherings as a child and how that's inspired you to want to learn about the culture in a more in-depth way. And then other ideas, you can say that you got inspiration from past NSLI participants like moi. You can say you saw things online, you talked to someone, you were friends with someone who used to do NSLI and they talked all about it and you were like, whoa, that's crazy. I actually personally inspired quite a few people to apply for NSLI and some of them actually got in and they're doing it. They could have possibly put me as a reason on their essay, I don't know. You could also just generally say how you want to contribute to cultural diversity and understanding. NSLI will give you a lot of activities to do that are involved in the community, and you can say how you want to give back. Me personally, I found several volunteer opportunities when I was in Taiwan, and I gave back to the community that was allowing me to learn so much from them. And that was a really invaluable experience. So that definitely can be a reason that you put on your essay. All right, that's all I have for the ideas. Now you're going to want to think of your own ideas, or you can also use any of the things that I said. Just make sure that those 3 reasons really resonate with you, and you're going to want to explain it and connect it to yourself. Don't have it just be general like, oh, I want to study international relations. NSLI is perfect for that. Talk about why you want to study international relations and how it's perfect for you specifically. And you can even talk about colleges that you want to go to, stuff like that. Oh, and then also talking about why you want to pick the language that you're learning. When I talked about Mandarin, I was like, well, it's the most widely spoken languages on the entire planet, and it's a huge challenge to my brain, and I can grow and learn, and I can communicate with an entire new community of people, and that I can communicate with my grandparents, stuff like that. There's probably plenty of reasons why you want to learn that language. And if you can't think of any, just Google, why should I learn Arabic? Why should I learn Korean? I'm sure there's plenty online for why you should learn that language. But you also want to use a lot of examples that are specific to you. That's all the tips that I have for the NSLI essays. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments. And thank you so much for watching.